Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my second broadcast of Through My Eyes, A Life with MS. You are listening to Lauren Parrott on the MS&Me Radio Network. We are sponsored and powered by the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network 24/7 internationally. This show is going to focus on why I believe that it is important to understand what multiple sclerosis is and how it affects those that are living with it. Most people make assumptions about MS, but they don't actually understand it. When I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, why would I? There was no reason for me to understand it. And it took me years to truly delve into researching what the disease actually was and how I can live well with the disease. But after living with multiple sclerosis for 17 years, I have learned how to live a very happy life. Every day is different, and there are a lot of factors that affect how I'm going to feel on a particular day. Some of the main things that influence how I feel with living with multiple sclerosis on a daily basis are: the first thing is heat. I do not do well in hot weather, especially if it's humid. Hot and humid weather is the worst for me. And I won't get into the science of it, but basically it's just that your brain can't communicate with your nerves, and so your body doesn't work as well as it should. Now, when I was younger, when I was like 14, 15, I used to love running. I was an avid runner. I would run outside. I loved sweating. I loved watching the sweat fall on the sidewalk. I remember that clear as day. I loved it so much. And I also laid out in the sun. I was a teenager. I would lay out and try to get a tan, and I absolutely loved it. But I've learned that if you're thinking like a dermatologist, being in the sun is a horrible thing for your skin. And I actually know people that have had melanoma, that have had surgeries to get things removed, to get growths removed. And it's actually a really horrible thing. It's bad for your body. You should always wear protection, sunblock, hats, do whatever you can. So, come to think of it, it's not actually a bad thing that I can't be in the heat. But sometimes it's inevitable. There might be a party or, a barbecue that my friends are having, that my family is having, that my neighbors are having. And of course you don't want to be excluded. And so I always go. I just know that I should stay in the shade, and I can't stay for that long, and everything will be okay. I don't do well in the heat. That is a big problem for me with my MS. The second thing I want to talk about is fatigue. Fatigue is also a main thing that I deal with on a daily basis. I am tired pretty much all the time, but I am a lot better than I was when I was first diagnosed. I'm really stubborn. I'm a really stubborn person, and I never wanted to have help. I never really wanted to take anything that would help with my fatigue. But it really didn't start affecting me that badly until I got a job. When I was in college, it wasn't that bad because, your schedule in college, I could take naps all the time. I slept whenever I needed to. I would go to class, I would go back to my dorm or my apartment and take a nap, and it wasn't that much of a problem. Plus, school is always, in the fall. It wasn't in the summer, so I did really well. But when I got a job, a full-time job, then I started falling asleep, and it was embarrassing. It was horribly embarrassing because, of course, I would never do that intentionally. I felt terrible. I didn't want to get fired. So I talked to my neurologist, and I explained to him what was happening, and he recommended that I take a pill that would help me stay awake. When I did that, it was like an unbelievable thing for me because for people who don't understand, when you have fatigue, it's like you go to bed at night and you sleep and you wake up and you feel like going back to bed. You feel like you didn't get enough sleep, and like at any given moment, I could take a nap. I could sleep all day. That's how bad the fatigue is for me. So when I started taking pills that kept me awake and my eyes are open and I had energy, it was unbelievable. It was such a positive thing for me. I was so grateful, and I hugged my neurologist. I was so happy, and I think that that's something that, for those who have fatigue, I highly recommend it. And I think that it's important to talk to your neurologist and see the whole thing that I try to do is I try to do everything I can to live the best I can with MS. So the issues that I'm facing, I just try to find what is going to make me feel better. So fatigue is a problem that I have, but I know that there are pills that I can take that make me feel better. And that's what I do, and it makes me a very happy person. The third thing I want to talk about are shoes. And it affects me every day, and it's kind of ridiculous to think about, but I have to be really careful in deciding what shoes I'm going to wear. And I have to wear flat shoes. I can't wear high heels, or, oh my gosh, stilettos, not even a chance. I can't even stand up in high heels because of my lack of coordination, because I have horrible balance due to the lesions on my brain. So it's at the point where I really don't care about the shoes I wear. I really don't care, because the thing is, I always tell people, I'm like, people will notice if I am off balance and if I fall. They'll notice, probably laugh, but they won't notice my shoes. They're not going to look at my shoes. And if someone is going to judge me for the types of shoes that I wear, then that's their issue. That's their problem, not mine, because I could absolutely care less. And for those who don't know, MS is called the drunken disease because of that reason. Because people with MS generally have a lack of coordination. And so you look drunk when you're walking. Now, when I was in college, I got kicked out of bars because bartenders and people thought that I was really drunk. And, most of the time I was not that drunk. I may have had a couple of drinks, but I wasn't like fall over drunk, but I may have fallen because of my MS. But there's no way that anybody was going to believe me or understand that. And so, I would just leave the bar, and I felt bad because some of my friends would have to come with me, and I really did feel bad about that. But now that I'm older, it's still happening. Like I've had bartenders go up to the people who I'm with, and they'll say to my friends, they'll say, you should really cut her off. She shouldn't be having any more to drink. She looks wasted. And I may have had like not even a whole entire drink, and they would say, okay, no problem, we'll take care of it. And then they would tell me, they're like, Lauren, the bartender thinks that you're drunk. I'm like, oh my God. So it's difficult because these are the types of things that people don't think about. And when that happens, what I do is I usually, sometimes I have gone up to the bartender and I have tried to explain to them, like, I'm not drunk. You can, check my, you can see how much I drink. I am not that drunk. It's because I have multiple sclerosis, and this is what happens. Some people are more understanding than others. Sometimes it's not even worth my time, so we just leave and go to another bar. But that's just something that I have to deal with. And it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I don't go to the bar very much anyways. Not anymore, for sure, but that's just an issue that most people don't ever have to worry about. I also want to tell you about a story that happened to me not too long ago. So I went out to lunch with someone who I haven't seen in years. She is one of the nicest people I have ever known in my entire life. And the last time I saw her, I hadn't been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis yet. And we went out to lunch together, and the topic casually came up in conversation. But she started making assumptions that were incorrect. She said to me, she said, because I said, oh, well, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, but, I'm doing okay, whatever. And she said, she's like, so you're in pain then, right? I get it. And and she was shaking her head like she knew what she was talking about. Because I really think that she thought that that's what the disease was all about, was being in pain. And I told her at that moment, I said, oh, well, you know what? I'm not actually in constant pain. I'm doing really well. I'm great, And to myself, I was thinking, where would she even get that idea? Why would she think that I'm in pain? Where does that come from? And so I was thinking, I'm like, okay, people, they just make assumptions. They make assumptions because they may know somebody that is also living with MS that might have pain, or they may hear something on the news, or whatever it may be, they think that they know what they're talking about, when in reality, they have no idea. And that can be really frustrating, because it's like in a perfect world, I wish that people would do a little bit of reading or research just so that they understood. I tend to, when I hear about somebody that is living with a disorder or whatever, I'm the type of person that will read up on it so that I can understand that. I can understand how they are feeling and what they're going through. But I also understand that most people aren't like that, because if I wasn't living with multiple sclerosis, would I do that? I don't know. I'm not sure. I am a very sensitive person. I always have been. So I think that if I didn't do reading or research, I think that I would be very understanding and I would hear them out. I may not do the reading and the research that I do that right now, but some people are just rude. They just don't know. They don't know any better, and it can be really frustrating and hurtful, and hurtful at times. Especially, I want to talk about this. I made a YouTube video about this, and it really, really upset me. My favorite TV show is This Is Us. It's my favorite show because I think that the acting is phenomenal. I love the characters. I love the characters, and I love their relationships. It's a family show. I think that the writing is wonderful. I love the storylines. I think it's great. It's my favorite show on TV. And the second season was starting up a couple weeks ago, and I was so excited to watch the first episode. But when I was watching it, there was a character who's taking care of her mom that has multiple sclerosis. And she didn't really go into details or anything like that. But she was talking about how she couldn't... Okay, her boyfriend wanted her to fly out. Her boyfriend is an actor in Hollywood, and he wanted her to fly out to Hollywood to celebrate his birthday. And she said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to take care of my mom. She has MS." And he said, "Well," she said, she's having a bad day. She has MS. And he talked to her later in the day, and he said, "How is she now, though?" He said, "Is she doing better?" And she said, she has MS. There are no good days." And that really upset me, because I was thinking, I'm like, all right, you can have great days with MS. And I know that it's just a TV show, but in reality, like I was saying, most people aren't going to read or research about the disease if they have no reason to. And people believe what they hear in the media, because our society today, people are pretty much obsessed with celebrities. So if it's in the public eye, like if somebody talks about it on a TV show, or you hear about it on the news, or you hear about it from your favorite celebrity, or your favorite athlete, or whoever it may be, if it's somebody in the public eye, you're going to believe what they say, and you're going to think that they know what they're talking about. You're going to think that what they're saying is accurate. But in reality, that is completely false. It is completely untrue. And I was like, oh my God. I mentioned in my last video that I met celebrities when I had an internship at Good Morning America. And I talked about how celebrities are just like normal people. You know, it's just like they're normal people. They eat and drink like we all do. They just happen to live in Los Angeles, and they happen to be on a TV show. And that's it. That's the only thing that separates us. But because they're in the public eye, people are going to believe what they say. So after I heard that storyline on This Is Us, I got really upset, and I am going to write a letter to the writers of This Is Us and just try to explain to them that they really need to do their research. They can't because they made a very general statement. Like I said, she said, there are no good days with MS. And that is ridiculous. That's a horrible thing to say. So I'm going to explain to them, like, please do your research, because you have so much influence over society and what they think that you really should understand what you're talking about when you write it, because there are so many of us that are living, we're trying so hard to live very well with the disease. And so people who don't know any better are going to think that's the case for everyone. Like the person I went to lunch with, she thinks that I'm in pain, and I'm not, because she heard it from somewhere. So I'm going to write a letter, and we'll see what happens. Maybe nothing will happen, and that's okay. But I got really frustrated, because I'm like, you know, the media, the people really believe what they hear in the media, and they believe that it's true. Like, most people aren't going to research it, and they're not going to say, like, well, why do you think that person feels this way? They're not going, most likely. I know that I do. Like, if somebody else is living with an issue that's not multiple sclerosis, and I'm going to know more about it, I'm going to read about it, because I think knowledge is power, and I think that it's really important to understand things before you make assumptions. I really think that it's a powerful, powerful tool. It's like, the more educated you sound, the better it is. And it's not going to upset people like me. Not that, I don't know, like, I wish that I had been watching the TV show with someone else that was living with multiple sclerosis. I do know, though, however, on the YouTube video that I made, there were some people that responded, and they said that, like, one person said, I agree, when a condition is portrayed on a TV show, it should first be well researched, because some people's only experience is what they have seen on TV. And this person said, I have had people honestly believe that I'm going to die soon because I have MS. They hugged me, crying, and they feel so bad for me. And so she went on to say, she's like, I had to explain, like, I am fine. I am doing just fine. You can't believe everything that you see on TV. And someone else said that she watches a Swedish series. It's called The Bonus Family on Netflix. And she said multiple sclerosis is always shown in a negative way. And she said so she agreed. She said, nobody seems to have any knowledge about the disease. And she said it makes her very sad and very disappointed. And she agreed with me, and she said, yes, MS is very different for all of us. And it can be debilitating, and it can be very, very much challenging for somebody, but that's not true for everybody. So people need to understand that it's different for everyone. And someone else, they said, before Jerry Lewis got to host his telethon, he hosted a telethon around Labor Day, and it was for muscular dystrophy. And this person said before he hosted his telethon, most people did not know anything about muscular dystrophy. They didn't know anything, but they started learning about it because a celebrity, Jerry Lewis, he started he was spreading awareness, and people were raising money for it. So, I mean, I think that being famous can be really good in a lot of ways and really terrible in a lot of ways. I really wish that writers would do more research so they knew what they were talking about before writing a script, before writing a screenplay or before writing a show that had inaccurate information that can affect so many people. I'm talking millions of people, and it's really unfortunate. So I just want to say, I believe it is important to understand what multiple sclerosis is, because not only does it affect the person who is diagnosed with the condition, but it also affects family members, friends, and coworkers. And so the more people who understand what multiple sclerosis is and how it affects people, the better. Because like I said before, knowledge is power. And it's so incredibly helpful if someone can make an educated decision versus an ignorant assumption. I know that I tend to stay away from people who aren't willing to understand me, especially because it's not my fault that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It's not any of our faults that we were diagnosed with MS. So if someone is not going to accept me for who I am, living with multiple sclerosis and all, then I don't want to be with them. It's just not worth it. It's their loss. And if anything, I have learned to educate myself on a lot of different issues, and I truly empathize with others. And I really believe that it has made me a better person, a much better person, because I love talking to people. I love learning. And I love helping other people. And I'd like to thank you so much for listening to my show. I hope you enjoyed it. So stay tuned, and I will have another show coming for you soon. Take care. Bye.